So let's start with the Mimic program. I believe it's the single biggest key to understanding why the Fazbear products behave the way they do, and not just in this new era of FNAF, given that the newest game is a prequel to the original series. Scott has come out to say that he wants to tell a new story with this new era. But again and again, we see this alleged new era adding context to the previous era of FNAF. But here's the thing, I don't think it's new context. I think what's actually happening is that Scott is working in this new era to turn what was previously subtext into plain text. I think that the new story is Scott's way of finally being able to tell us the story he wanted to tell the entire time, but we weren't knowledgeable enough to understand what it was he was really trying to say. All those eerie, unexplained phenomena across the franchise, I think the program that we've come to know as the Mimic is the reason. This program runs on what could be described as one of the most complex sets of computer logic in the series. A system designed to take in data, interpret it, and replicate it. It's a generative AI. Generative AI, by design, learns. In real-world terms, this is the kind of logic that powers things like image generators, large language models, and simulation systems. In the FNAF universe, that kind of logic becomes haunting. What I'm suggesting is this. The generative AI logic that has always been present within the Fazbear computer systems was given a broad directive: replicate. And it did exactly that. Maybe even a little too well, because it didn't stop at surface level mimicry. It learned from the trauma it was observing. It started to rebuild and replay events it had witnessed because, based on its machine learning framework, that was how it interpreted its instructions. Now take that and apply it to everything we've seen in the games since the beginning. This thing isn't just imitating humans, it's imitating events and experiences. This would explain the contradictions in the lore that fans have wrestled with for years, or the question of how a game like Ultimate Custom Night, with its dreamlike blend of characters and endless punishment loops, could possibly fit into the series. And what's its purpose for being, other than to scare the shit out of all of us? Well, if a learning AI was involved from the beginning and has been recreating past events all along, over and over in new ways, possibly even generating its own unique simulations from those observations, it starts to make a little more sense where these other stories might be coming from and why and how. This would mean we aren't looking at haunting in the traditional sense. It doesn't need a human soul to act like it's possessed. It just needs to save the data from that person. And as we'll discuss, possibly not even all of their unique personal data. Now, I want to clarify something up front. Do I think Scott Cawthon planned the Mimic program stuff all out perfectly from the beginning? Well, no, not exactly. I don't believe Scott had the Mimic as we know it today mapped out, but the seeds of a rogue AI being at the heart of the hauntings? Absolutely. I think FNAF started with an idea, something flexible enough to grow and develop with Scott's growing knowledge set over at least 3 games. That idea matured. The world expanded. The metaphor deepened. Metaphor is a powerful tool that Scott wields to great effect. There have been more and more moments in the franchise as it has expanded where it felt like Scott was trying to say something very specific until he just came out and said it. And even then, it seems like we aren't quite there yet. The only way I could think to untangle this for myself and for others was to go game by game, to trace the computer science concepts, because once you understand the logic, the hauntings don't seem so spiritual anymore. Yes, what I'm about to share is just one possible interpretation of the FNAF lore, but I think it's the one that best fits the evidence. Think of this as an exploration of computer consciousness through the lens of Five Nights at Freddy's. That's where we're headed. But let's start by coming to a common understanding of what these first 3 games actually are inside of the universe of Five Nights at Freddy's. By the time we get to Help Wanted, we're told something crucial and that is that all the mainline FNAF games that came before it exist within the universe as games, not only for us, but for the people who would have been going to physical Freddy's locations in-universe. These games are not those physical locations. These are digital copies. Yes, real events did take place, but what we're playing, up to at least Help Wanted, is a secondhand digital mashup of those events. We should keep that in mind as we move through this series of breakdown videos.